We are back. Senators, twins, or twin senators, baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Ronnie Rabinovitz is the co-host today. I think George Case is on vacation. Probably is.
Hi, Ralph. How are you, buddy? I'm good. How are you?
How are you?
Good. I'm
good.
great.
You have a guest coming up that you're going to present?
Yes, I do.
Tell me about her. And I love having women voices on Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. It's a pleasant...
she's an amazing lady. Yeah. She's a big sports fan. She coaches football. She works with a lot of kids. She's she motivates a lot of children. And she is also a paralegal. She started a booking agency for speakers called the Cindee James Agency. She is the mother of 3 young children. She writes fictional stories. And she's also working on a book about my relationship with Jackie Robinson. She's quite an amazing woman.
How cool is that?
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Perfect time. First of all, tell me your name.
Cindee James.
Cindee James. And
right.
Why don't you tell me about, everybody doesn't know, Ron, we assume people do. You are the all-time Jackie Robinson maven. Jackie was your friend.
He was my friend.
That's the best compliment you can give a relationship.
Right, absolutely.
Love relationship,
yeah.
Business relationship. If you have a friend, that's kind of nice.
Right.
And you are a motivational speaker, among other things. And,
I am.
Cindee is setting you up on some tours and this, that, and the other.
Some tours, right, exactly.
In addition to writing a book about you, if I were to write a book about you, what would be the first chapter of the book? You don't have to put it sentence by sentence, but
I would say it would be a little bit of history of who I am and where I was. How I grew up.
Okay.
I was adopted, which was very unusual. I mean, not unusual, but it was a whole wrinkle in this whole story. And I think that would be. It's quite an amazing thing. I was very fortunate to have the parents I did. They were wonderful people. I adored them. My dad was a lawyer. My mother was a housewife. And she also worked for my dad occasionally in his law office.
Hey, would you, because you've talked so much about your dad and very little about your mom over these months, tell me about your mom and how she contributed to raising you.
My mother grew up in Chicago. She was going to school at Northwestern University. She majored in music. She used to play the violin. She also played in the orchestra in Sheboygan when she married my dad. And they were married 9 years before they adopted me. Apparently they weren't able to have children, and they wanted to have children. And she worked very much. She worked with my dad in the office in the early years. She also was an expert as you recall in years past, how you had to file claims for insurance, health insurance things. And she was expert with that. And she'd have people...
Was she the one with the big rubber stamp that said, no?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, she was very smart. She was very smart in a way.
Okay.
And she people would call her for advice how to file their health claims to get reimbursements and things like that. So it was pretty amazing.
Skill.
Yeah.
Tremendous skill.
Yeah, she was quite
not only in this day and age, it was always difficult to deal with insurance companies.
That's right. And
as a matter of fact, for those of you out there that don't know, there was a time in my life, the first 8 years after I got out of the Air Force, I sold insurance. I sold life insurance. I sold health insurance. And I'm mentioning this because there was an expression that the agents used to use when they sit around and chat about the advantages of selling either of the two products. And the expression was, dead men tell no tales. In other words, if you're a life insurance beneficiary, hey, you're dead. That's it.
Yeah, right, right.
But with health insurance, always was the practice, no matter what you put on the application, they would have this formal investigation of pre-existing conditions, try to come up with something to deny the claims. And as a matter of fact, they pay people money to just do nothing but.
Right, exactly.
Claims adjusters. But
that's right.
It's for claims adjusters in any kind of insurance, not just health insurance, and they do investigate life insurance to make sure there's nothing within the contestability clause. But those people are adjusting in favor, car insurance, of the insurance company. Otherwise, they'd hire as independent contractors, hired by both, if it were fair, by both the insurer and the insuree. But because it's the insurance company footing the bill and making the decisions unilaterally as to what is and what isn't covered, they get to decide. Another one of the rip-offs in big business and in the way our system of unholy trinity of big business, government, and organized religion just combines to make we the people miserable throughout life financially. And that's the way it goes. Let's talk then, now that we know you a little bit, because your mom worked for the insurance company, made decisions. What did she do for your dad in his law practice?
Well, she was like a secretary in the early days, and she her name was Charlotte, and she would work for him. And they had kind of an up and down relationship. It was kind of they loved each other, but they fought like crazy. The two of them. I mean, one would say yellow, the other would say green, and off they go.
Right.
And
well, that made you debater, I guess.
That's right. So I ended up. A lot of times my mother wouldn't go with my dad because they'd had a fight. So he'd say, "Ronnie, come with me." So I would go with him everywhere. That's why I was involved with the Kennedys. That's why I was involved traveling with the governors and senators and people like this. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was so fun. I mean, it was not a place normally that a child would go, but I was very fortunate and I loved it. And I could be a kid when I was a kid, and when I was around adults, I could be very much an adult, So it was a good thing for me. They were only married for 50 years. And
so without liking each other all that much, they could hang for 50 years. That sounds exactly like my grandparents. It's unconditional love is what it amounts to, and has nothing to do with liking with certain people. They'll stick it out with each other, and I think that's good. I've asked you this question regarding your dad before. What is it that your mom passed on to you that you pass on to your kids?
I'm sorry, what did you say? I missed that.
Oh, I say I've asked you about your dad in regard to this question before, but never about your mom. What is it about your mom that some of her characters, some of the ways she raised you, that you pass on to your kids? And while we're at it, what are some of the ways that you were raised that you don't pass on to your kids?
Yeah. Well, I've tried to, I took my kids, I used to travel a lot on the road. I used to sell children's clothing. I was a manufacturer's rep. So I was away a lot. I was away a lot. So, I was on the road like 40 weeks a year. So in the summer times, I would take the kids with me, and travel with me, and they loved it. My son Jeff was a little cocker, and he'd sit in the corner, and I had little toys, and I'd be showing my line of clothing to a buyer, and he used to drink this all up. I mean, you could see he was just watching like a sponge, like a sponge. And he ended up, he was like 14 years old, and he'd come to my showroom, and he'd start showing a line of clothing, and if I closed my eyes, I would think it was me talking, because he would just repeat everything I said. It was amazing. And all my salesmen friends used to come around, and they'd look and see him working on clothing. It was pretty funny. Yeah. I think our guest is here.
I think she is.
Cindee, are you?
Hi, good morning. Good morning from Arizona.
How are you?
I am very well this morning. How are you, Ronnie?
Good, I'm great. And this is Ralph.
Hi, Ralph.
Very nice to meet you on the phone.
Oh, I'm delighted. Excited to be
here. Yeah. Ronnie, introduce our guest properly, if you would. Once again.
Yes.
We talked about you a little bit.
Cindee is a big sports fan. She coaches kids. She coaches football. She works with kids, and she's a tremendous motivator for those kids. She's also a paralegal. She started a booking agency for speakers, and it's called the Cindee James Agency. And she's the mother of 3 children. And she's written a lot of fiction stories, and now she's working on a book about my relationship with Jackie Robinson. So she's got a lot of hats, and she does them all well. She's terrific. Welcome, Cindee.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let me get to know you a little bit about by asking you, what is the quality in a motivational speaker that most appeals to you?
The qualities that appeal to me in a motivational speaker: someone who is inspiring, someone who's full of life, someone who is of leader caliber, someone who believes in people, who wants to inspire them to greatness, lead them to greatness. And honestly, the most important quality to me is attitude. The power of a positive attitude, and you can accomplish anything with that. So I think those are key qualities that I really think that a motivational speaker has. They have a story to tell with a positive story, something that is going to lead someone to greatness. And I definitely think that Ronnie is a great example of that. So we'll get to that.
A perfect example. You're terrific at this because you recognize that. Ronnie, enough so that you decided to write a book about his relationship with Jackie Robinson. And I want to ask you, because I get the opportunity to talk to Ronnie on a regular basis, and I try to cover it all. What is the first thing, what would be the first chapter in your book about Ron Rabinovitz? We talked before you got here about what he thinks the first chapter of the book should entail, but for you and Ronnie, the way you see Ronnie, how would you write the first chapter to get everyone's attention?
This is a great question. So how I'd like to introduce my book, Letters from Jackie, I'd like to introduce the characters. These wonderful characters, Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson is coming to kind of towards the end of his career, and there's this young little boy, Ronnie. And Ronnie is he comes from a Jewish family, white family, And I'd like to their background. Well,
I don't think you know, Jews, we're not really white. We're almost white.
Almost.
Well, this is subjective.
I can tell you, go down south. Very few people think of us as white.
I'd like to object here. I'd like to object here, sir. I'm sorry, but absolutely an objection. There's a backstory on Ronnie. Ronnie was actually adopted, so I beg to differ on that. That's
okay. All right. Well, I think I knew his dad, Rufus, so you can forget about that theory.
You're such a character, Ralph.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
I don't know how far that's ever gotten me. Go ahead. I'm
As you
sorry.
can tell, Ralph
I think throwing in a little humor now and again is one of my dreams, if I could only do it.
Right. That's right.
Anyway, there's definitely a backstory on Ronnie, Ronnie's adoption story, so I will definitely introduce that story if you stay tuned for that. And then I'm definitely going to get into the story of Jackie Robinson, a black man facing trials. There was tribulations, prejudices on his journey about becoming the first African-American to play Major League Baseball. We all know about that story already. And I'd like to talk about the blatant segregation going on and how it also affected Ronnie, being Jewish in the 1950s, and how he met his hero, and it sparked a friendship that lasted about 19 years until Robinson's death. I mean, this is something that not everybody experiences. They were both going through the same adversities, the same trials, the same challenges, and how they kind of leaned on each other and they formed a bond. So I believe this is exciting. And I think Ronnie can talk about this, and I think it shaped his character of who he is and how strong he became. And it's exciting.
It is very exciting.
You mentioned Jews and African Americans. There's an inordinate rift nowadays between Jews and African Americans, and folks forget that when the original NAACP was formed, it was formed not only with the help of Jewish financing, but the direct help of people Jews who sat on the board of the NAACP. And there was a time in this country where Jews who obviously suffered discrimination and abuse and all of it, topped off by the Holocaust, were people who can identify in general with other minorities and other humans, and we pride ourselves in that. And maybe Ronnie can address the inordinate rift that has become apparent over the I can't say it's over the last few years, pretty much over the last 50 years between Jews and blacks. And, of course, what's happening, Ron?
I'm not sure exactly, but there was a very close allegiance between African Americans and Jewish people. As a matter of fact, a lot of Jackie Robinson's abilities, and he worked with a lot of Jewish people who fought for him. My father fought for him. Other people fought for him. And there was this alliance. It's kind of drifted apart a little bit now. I'm sad to see that. Certainly not in my life, because I'm still aligned with African Americans and with other minorities that are facing prejudice. So I think it's starting to get closer again. But there was a rift for a while. I think there were some slanderous remarks that Jesse Jackson made, talking about Jews in New York and the Jaime Town and different crap that he used to say. But I think it's now starting to come back the other way, which it should, because we both suffered a lot of prejudice over the years as people, and we have aligned ourselves with other people who have suffered from prejudices. My father was a good example of that, because he really was he fought for the underdog. He, when Jewish people, the Holocaust survivors, were coming to America, he would help. He would go to Washington and help get them jobs and housing and furniture in Sheboygan and other places. And he fought like the Hmong people. They came to Sheboygan, like quite a few Hmong people later on in life. And they were looked upon badly, and he fought for them too. So he was really way ahead of his time as far as civil rights goes. And I think Jackie loved that in my dad. He respected him. And I certainly learned a lot from him about that. People are people. I can give you a good example. When I was a child, I was in second grade, and I had a friend of mine by the name of Johnny. We were playing in the playground one day, and one day he came up to me and he said, "I can't play with you anymore." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you're Jewish." And I went home that night, and I was crying. I was really sad. And my dad went over to his parents' home that night, talked to them. I wasn't there. I don't know what was said. But the next day we were able to play together again. And we became the best of friends. He still lives in Sheboygan. We're still the best of friends. His parents loved me. I loved them. It was just ignorance. They had never met a Jewish person. They had never met an African American. And I took my friend, Johnny, to Milwaukee to meet Jackie Robinson. And I have a picture with him standing next to Jackie, and Jackie became his hero too. So it's just a good example that I share. I share that story when I speak because people are people. There's good and bad in everybody. But if they're good no matter what the color of their skin is, no matter what their religion or their race is. And it's a simple thing that I feel that people, if they followed that same formula in life, we wouldn't have all this hatred. We wouldn't have all this stuff. Of course, I feel that a lot of it's being driven right now by the Trump administration and by the white supremacists and all that. It's not good. It's not good. And
hats off to Johnny's parents because they did something, and your dad's communication skills, along with that, but they did something that few of us humans do. And I've talked about this a lot on and off the air over the years of my life. Nixon, P. Rose, they make mistakes and they can't cop to it. They can't say, I made a mistake, I was wrong.
Right.
If Nixon had done that initially at Watergate, he didn't plan the break-in. He had his people do that. He didn't plan the actual. He knew about it, and that's what he could have said. He said, "I knew something was going on. I trust these people. They're going to have to resign." Ehrlichman, all those people.
Right.
They made a mistake. We made a mistake. I made a mistake in hiring them. I'm going to resign. Well, you know what?
Right.
Those people had warped ideas, and they could at least, maybe their ideas were passed on to them. Maybe their ideas came from a pulpit where most hatred is preached.
Exactly.
So you see, they said I was wrong, and I'm not going to have my kid believe this, or they might have been embarrassed into it. Could have been anything, but wow, a change, a metamorphosis is most welcome in adults. Kids can reform, but generally, once an adult is there, I'll back it up. I hate blacks, and here's why. There was a black, and blah, blah, blah. Crazy.
I don't know any child that was born with prejudice. None.
Absolutely.
It's taught by their parents. And unfortunately, there's a good example of that in the play, in the movie 42. Cindee, I don't know, you saw the movie, didn't you?
Absolutely.
And there was this scene where this parent had his child with him, in the stands, and he started making the kid loved Pee Wee Reese. And then he started screaming, the parents started screaming at Pee Wee Reese that he's an N lover and all this, and all of a sudden,
So terrible.
kids start screaming the same thing. I mean, it's a prime example of what happens. And today, in today's world, you know, anti-Semitism was, for a while, it was kind of under the table. It's not under the table anymore. It's right out in the open. I don't know how many Jewish schools have been terrorized as far as death, bomb threats and things like that. My daughter teaches in the school, a Jewish day school, and they had to evacuate. It was terrible. I mean, it's happened all over this country. So there's a rise of anti-Semitism. There's a rise of anti-African Americans. There's a rise of prejudice again, and I hate it. And I'm trying in my lifetime to do everything I can to stamp it out, because it's not.
Well,
right.
It isn't all against Jews, and it isn't all against
No.
African Americans.
No.
We have
No, absolutely not.
It's
No,
women.
not.
It's
women.
You have
Right.
a president who
It's
sets
women.
the tone for women, disabled people, everybody that isn't rich. If you're not rich,
Right.
you're looked at as a boob by this guy, because you're the
Right.
one that's working, and you have to work. And the funny part is, people's incomes and benefits are being supplemented with the low wages. They're being supplemented by the government. People don't understand that a big business paid their workers working wages. They wouldn't have to go to the government, and funds could be used, government funds could be used for other and more important things like, 1 to 5, that age 1 to 5, school lunches, libraries, better policing, more enlightened policing, let's put it that way. They do just fine. They have enough weaponry. Thank you. All those things that social programs involve, and money's depleted because companies like Walmart don't pay their fair share of taxes, or
it's
don't.
terrible, and the whole thing is just upside down.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle.
It is.
I want you both, as motivational speakers, we'll get off the subject a little bit, to tell me, when people go, wow, it's a motivational speaker, it's like buying a self-help book in a way. People want to, right, it's, all those things are great ideas. But where does it lose? Sometimes motivational speaking and self-help books, it's a lot of it is the rah-rah that goes with it. It loses the person who can't identify with the others. They pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You can do it. You can do it. How does the fluff in motivational speaking get separated from the meat and the potatoes for people?
Well, I'd like to have Cindee talk about that, because she does a lot of motivating of kids, and that's where it starts. As children, and she does a terrific job of that. So, Cindee, can you kind of chime in?
What are your techniques for that, Cindee? Is it always honesty and truth? Is it how do you work it?
Okay, well, here's the thing. You need to be honest, and you need to be able to identify with your audience. Because if you're going somewhere and you have no common bond, then it just goes out the other ear. People aren't interested. It's not going to help them. They can't identify. But if you can reach out to someone and find, anything in common. I know recently I was talking to someone who seemed demotivated. She's also a coach. She's female. And I didn't think we were going to have much to talk about until I realized we were both having a challenge. You find something that you both have struggled with in your life. And being a female football coach, I have to tell you, it has been the challenge of my life. Not having cancer, not having other medical issues that I've faced, being a female coach. And so just identifying with her and talking about having different examples and talking about how I overcame those challenges and just keeping my cool and keeping a positive attitude. You have to keep it real. I think that's the thing that if I want to give advice to someone speaking, just keep it real. Be honest. Don't reach out for something extravagant. Be yourself. Be who you are. And I think Ronnie can relate to that too. Being yourself, right, and to identify with who you are. Find out who your audience is. Research. Get to know somebody and truly get to know them. Be a listener and an active listener. So I think those are all key.
You said something, be a listener. Listening is so much more important than what one says. It's what one hears. And unfortunately, in conversation, human frailty makes it possible, if you will, for folks to not listen while someone's speaking, but think of what they're going to say next, as opposed to what the person is saying. And I'm sure that's true in coaching, that you talk to a group of folks and some people are just not listening. They're just thinking about their retort and what have you. What league do you coach in? Is this in a high school or semi-pro? Because women football players are few and far between in our society, either for the good or the bad. Tell me about your coaching experience.
Well, I'd like to bring this up. So we were just talking about prejudices and stereotypes. So I've experienced this as a coach every single day. I have issues with parents seemingly not liking having a female coach. I have people interrupting my games. As a matter of fact, I recently had
excuse me. You don't coach females. You coach.
I coach male. I coach boys. I coach males. It's the real deal.
Kids. Young
okay.
Kids.
I thought you were in some. I get it now.
No,
I'm sorry.
These are young kids. They play flag football.
Okay. Gotcha.
How old is your team? How old are the kids?
So my team right now is ages 7 to 11.
Yeah,
and
they're kids.
You would think that it's all about fun. It's all about having an exciting time. It's about teaching kids to overcome challenges. I try to teach my players, life lessons that they will have forever, such as, when they get tired and they don't want to run anymore and it's hot. I motivate them. I tell them to keep going, because when you have a job and you have a headache, you can't just call out of your job. Oh, I'm hurting. I have a headache. You can't do that. No, you shake it off. You kick life in the you-know-what, and you move forward. So that's what sports is. Sports is teaching about those lessons. And you have to press on no matter what.
So these kids are learning teamwork, the most important thing.
Yes.
And what about teamwork? What about teamwork? Because all of us are an I, me kind of society. And so you get, I don't know if you have 20 boys on your, it has to be more, but I don't know.
Yes,
but
approximately.
Maybe 20. Yeah, some play offense, some play defense, some play both, I'm sure. How do you get the mindset to go from me, because there is indeed no I in team? So what's the first thing you do? I mean, because these kids are so young, how do you do that? How do you make that transition?
Sure. So what I do is I promote getting to know, and I call everybody your brothers and your sisters. We do have a couple females, but it's mostly predominantly males right now. And so I want them to get to know everybody on their team. They need to know that we are not by ourselves. If someone drops, everyone's going to drop. When I'm running drills, someone falls behind, we wait for a team member. We pick them up. We motivate them. We all clap for them. We tell little Johnny, go Johnny, go Johnny. Everybody claps. Everybody motivates them. We all cheer them on. We don't leave someone behind. We are all in the foxhole together. And so I think just getting to know somebody every single day. I don't know if you've seen the movie. I think it's called Remember the Titans. It's a football movie. They were having racial prejudices. And so the coach had made the kids pick something about their brother and something about where they're from, what their mother's name was. And I kind of thought that was a great idea. So I asked each of my team players to partner them up with someone who they've never talked to and get to know them, find out what their favorite movie is, find out what their favorite hobby is other than football, and talk to them. I kind of force them to talk. I've had situations where I see them get into an argument. I will make them run around a tree next to each other, and I will make them find something nice to talk about them. Again, being positive. Look for the good.
Important.
Don't focus on the bad. Look for the good in people. That's something that I promote. We don't look for negative.
But then the parents screw it all up. The parents
parents, man, they are the biggest barrier lately. They are the most difficult challenge that I've ever received. My kid's father got punched in one of my football games when I was coaching last weekend. A parent was opposed to me being a female coach, and they tried to overcoach off me. And I said, hey, get off my sidelines. I'm running the game. I'm running the ball. Step off, please. And I was very respectful, and I'm very assertive. And he would not desist. So my kid's father, Matthew Larkin, amazing, amazing man. He's also a coach. He's also a writer. And he stepped up on the field and asked the gentleman to please just kindly step off the field. He refused to, and he gave Matthew a right hook to his face. And who would have thought? This is Little League football. Can you believe this?
These are kids.
These are kids. Unbelievable.
Disgusting.
Boy, I'll tell you, you talk about Little League, and our colleague on the show, George Case III, who's the son of a former Major League player. He's growing up, and he's gone to Little League. And
wow.
He tells the story about how one of the parents, kids age 7 or thereabouts, and senior, actually the junior, George Case Jr., his dad, is in attendance, and some Little League parent screams out, Case, you'll never be as good as your dad.
Oh, my.
Isn't that terrible?
For both George Cases, it had to be a horrible moment.
Sure.
And George says tells the story with kind of a smile in his voice. He's very mellow, very understanding. And I said, well, what did your dad say about this? Well, George says, he had some choice words when we got home for that person. But, I mean, that's underplayed. If it was my kid and it were me who said a parent would say something so insensitive. So I cannot, just from that story, I can understand that being a Little League mentor in any sport is difficult.
I mean, we are the ones who are shaping these kids. We can make or break them. I remember when I was swimming, I swam as a kid in college also, and I had a coach tell me, because I was a bigger girl at the time, I've actually lost over 100 pounds, but at the time I was struggling big time. I started off at 330 pounds, and now I'm 140 pounds, but I remember struggling. I was just getting into sports swimming, and a coach said, you look like a whale underwater. Now you just need to learn to swim like one. And I have to tell you, that was the moment
horrible.
And the lowest point. And fortunately, I took that and I went with it and I changed my life. But I felt low for months. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I had anxiety. And so we need to focus on the good. And I have this.
Did you share that story at the time with your parents or mentors?
I kept it to myself because I was ashamed at the time. kids are ashamed. They don't want to talk about it. They're embarrassed. So I didn't bring it up to anybody, and I think kids should. We need to know what goes on in their little minds. They're like sponges.
Right.
They absorb
Sure,
everything. Yeah,
That's
it's
right.
You should have had
great.
somebody to talk to. It probably would have made it easier for you.
Yes, and so kids need that. They need someone that they feel safe, someone they feel they can trust, and someone who believes in them. I think that's just half the battle. You know, when a kid feels like someone believes in them. I have a kid on my team, and I'm going to say his name. His name is Sabian, and Sabian struggles. There was, past tense, a lack of motivation. He didn't seem to be talking to a lot of kids. He didn't want to run. And just his attitude at first was just he didn't want to do it. And people were correcting him, Sabian, run, Sabian, do this, Sabian, do that. And I said, you know what? When a person is told constantly that they're not good enough, I truly believe that's all they're ever going to believe. And I kept saying, hey, Sabian, you're doing a great job. Hey, Sabian, can you call our team chant, Go Chargers? And I let him do that. I let him lead our team. I let him. I looked into him and made him believe that he was better than he thought he was. And you know what? He actually started being motivated. He started reaching the higher aspirations than he thought he could. And we just needed to build his confidence. I think that's the biggest part. Build a confidence. Let them know that they are worth it. But if a kid is told that they're bad and they're not good enough, then they're not going to try. So what I firmly believe.
You can see, Ralph, I am so impressed with this young lady.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to ask her
she is outstanding.
I'm going to ask you about your parents and how did they pass on these good things to you? You know, what you learned from them that you pass on to the kids. Start with your mom. I want to know what your mom passed on to you.
Okay. Well, let's talk about my mother. So my mother was a little bit harder on me. I'm not going to lie. My mother was a good mom. Both of my parents both worked 2 jobs just to put me in the best private schools. We came from a middle-class family. They had me in every single sport you can imagine. But the thing is with my mother, I had straight A's in school. I never quite felt good enough. So I became the overachiever. I became a little bit stressed out. But there was my dad. My dad was the safe place. My dad was the person that I leaned on. My dad always told me, and I remember him saying this constantly, that I could be whoever I wanted to be. He would say that all the time. I remember being overweight, and I was doing ballet at the time. And there was a couple other kids saying, oh, you're too big. And my dad said, don't listen to them. You can do it. You can be whoever you want to be. And you know what? I did. I became one of the best dancers. Eventually, when I lost the weight, I was accepted into a lot of the most prestigious dance academies. And those are lessons that my dad taught me. My dad was always positive with me. My dad always believed in me. My dad always told me that I was beautiful. My dad always told me that I was smart. And my mother, even though she was so hard on me, she was more of the tough love kind of person. It's good to have a soft hand, and it's good to have someone who's gentle and kind. But sometimes, you know what, you do need someone a little bit on the side to be like, hey, get in gear. And I do that with my team as a coach. I'm very kind, and I'm very nice, and I'm very positive. But they all know my motto. You will run or I will make you run.
Give you something to run away from.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. What did you learn from failure? I'll ask you that. Because, see, you know, life's lessons come hard and they come easy. I think we learn from not succeeding every bit as much as we do from succeeding. What did you learn from failure, and how did you pick yourself up after your biggest failure?
What I learned from failure is that I never wanted to feel. I never wanted to have those feelings that I had at the time, those feelings of feeling not good enough, feeling low, and I learned that I am only in competition with myself. It took me forever to learn that. I was always looking at other people and trying to stack up to them, And it finally hit me one day, like, hey, if I can just run maybe 5 yards further than I ran yesterday, man, I overcame a challenge. I'm not a failure. I'm only getting better and better. So I'm really a big feely person. I just remember those emotions of feeling just not good enough that inspired me that you know what, I'm worth it. I'm good enough and I'm going to do this. Even there was a sense of at times wanting to prove myself, just to myself that I could. And of course there was, proving others wrong, there's a sense of that, but it really comes down to yourself. You're in competition with yourself. So failure just teaches you will find a way. Just like the Jurassic Park quote, I forget what the character's name is, but he said, life always finds a way. And it does. I'm struggling. I'm going through chemo, and I love riding my Harley-Davidson motorcycle. I was placed on oxygen of 4 liters, and I was thinking, oh, my gosh, how am I going to ride a motorcycle? I found a way to piggyback my oxygen tank, and I found a way to find a way. I took a failure, a doctor telling me that I couldn't do something, and I did it. So failures are only ways to adapt. I believe that there's no disabilities in life. There are only adaptabilities. And I believe that with all my heart. Learn to adapt.
Well,
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
Change, succeed,
yep.
and do much better than staid people who
right.
refuse that. And that's what it took in from the folks around Jackie Robinson, baseball change from top to top bottom. That's what it takes to survive in life. You got to adapt to your physicality as one gets older, and God knows I'm getting there too. That's all important. This has been terrific.
I told you this was going to be great, Ralph.
Wow. Cindee, I'd like to think of my podcast as something where the guests can come on and identify what they have going, how they can be reached, emails, websites, phone numbers, however it is, what you have going currently that you want people to hear about. Take a few minutes and selfish self-promotion. How about that?
Wonderful. Well, I'm not sure I'm here to promote myself today, but I want to promote life. I want to promote leadership. I want to promote people of leader caliber. I'd love to promote this book, Letters from Jackie. I think this book is going to be a great way to show that you can throw a Band-Aid on prejudices. People coming together. There's all kinds of prejudice in this world. Again, we talked about the whole female coach thing. We talked about racial prejudices. There's also prejudices in your job. I mean, you guys, we spoke about how, the wealthy were looking down upon the lower class. I've also seen the lower class looking down, on the wealthier classes. And it's sad. It breaks my heart. But anyway, I think this book is going to be a great way. And if you'd like more information, you can email me at lawshark81@gmail.com. You can also go to my Facebook page. You can look for Cindee James Agency. You can also reach me, and I will personally love to take phone calls. I'd love to talk to people. I love to get to know people. If you have a wonderful story, please reach out to me. If you would love to book the incredible Ronnie, reach out to me. My number is 480-878-8015. My name, Cindee James, is also spelt. It's unique. I am different. It is. My parents they're fun. It's spelled C-I-N-D-E-E, and then James is J-A-M-E-S. Again, it's Cindee James. Find me on Facebook. Another number you can reach me at is 480-283-5753. I'm well diversified. If you have a legal problem, a legal question, I can help you with family law. I can help you with business, probate, and criminal, medical malpractice. Wow, the list goes on and on. Anyway.
Boy, you should set up practice at the White House. You're really in need right now.
You're right.
President Trump. I hope you're listening, Trump.
They're taking on lawyers like the Titanic took on water.
Oh, yes.
That's right. Right.
But you know what? Bernie Sanders is being sued too. It's not just the Republicans. It's not just Trump. Just an aside.
No.
It's all of them. They're all in the same boat.
That's right.
The system is irrevocably broken.
Totally.
If we're Democrats, well, what's going on today is so far removed from the Democratic Party as we knew it growing up, Ron.
That's right.
Cindee, I won't date you, but we're both proud to be survivors, to get to an age when we can look back. I look at
absolutely.
I look at this as a challenge and a privilege, as opposed to oh God,
yes,
that and the other thing. Still have the wisdom, still have the way of communicating, and as long as we have that, we can be young at heart.
Absolutely.
But identifying politics or politicians as anything more than everybody in the same boat, changing the labels every 4 or 8 years, you could vote for somebody else. But in truth, if you want to look at the common denominator, it's the NRA. The NRA has their hooks into every representative going, and they all take money from the most fundamentally evil organization since the Mother Church.
Right.
And they're all involved, and they're all taking it. Unless we can find a way of changing the system, of revolting with our fountain pens as opposed to guns, because the only way big business, the church, the government, the unholy trinity, as it were, responds is through the books. If they're not getting enough donations, if they're not making enough sales, if they're not getting enough votes, they'll respond to that. Other than that, they're not going to respond. So,
right. That's right.
That you both can keep a positive attitude in this world as it is a credit to what you have going, to the expression motivational speaker. I'm going to ask you both this. It's the middle of the night, and you're down and out. Who's the one person you call to be motivated? Start with you, because it's women's first, Cindee James.
I'm going to call Ronnie Rabinovitz. Ronnie has been around longer than I have, but Ronnie is amazing. Ronnie is an active listener. Ronnie is kind. But Ronnie is also not going to BS me. Pardon my language. Ronnie's going to tell me the truth. And Ronnie's going to find a way to identify with me. So I'm going to call Ronnie. I'm going to call Ronnie definitely in a heartbeat. I'm also going to call... Yeah.
Well, Cindee, that's all well and good, but I'm still looking for a way of pardoning your language. But, change, and I can do it. I can get through this, but Cindee. Hey, Cindee, Ron, thank you for your time today. This
has been wonderful. It's been
I
so
hope
much
you'll
fun.
agree to come back. I hope my humor didn't offend you, Cindee. I know.
No, you're fine.
Because Ronnie leaves me, after every show, Ronnie leaves me a little note. You should have said this. You shouldn't have said this. Why are you this? Why are you that? He's very hard on me, Cindee. I know it's tough. I know it's tough love, but...
And I love him like a brother.
For you.
That's right. He's my lunchman. He's my brother.
All right, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Someday we'll tell the story about the first time I did an interview with you, and I looked at my lover, Tally, and I said, I can't do this anymore. There's nothing. That interview was so good. I had a man open up to me in such a way that I didn't know. I think it was 2 weeks. You can go back in the files. It was 2 weeks before I did another interview after because it's like, how can you top this? I realized how hard it is for a team to come back the second year after winning a championship. I had that analogy in my mind, like you win it all, and what's going to motivate, if you'll use the expression, me to make change? And what I did, I ended up extending what I was doing. I had one little podcast show that I did where I was got to show my irreverence and my sports knowledge. That was all it was. And I decided that, there's more people out there that I'd like to give a voice to, and I formed a network as the result of it. It was a little convoluted before we got to that, but I do remember I said, this is just a tremendous interview. So, Cindee James, you have wonderful taste in getting clients. Let's put it that way. And Ron Rabinovitz, you have tremendous taste in producing podcast radio and getting guests. So we'll do it again.
Wonderful.
Please come back, Cindee.
Absolutely.
Cindee, it was great. Thank you so much.
It was terrific.
Really terrific. Yeah.
All
really
right.
was.
I'm going to end the show by just telling you guys and everybody to keep on keeping on. Persistency is the name of the game, and it's not what you did to put you on the canvas. It's what you do to get off the canvas that's paramount. So thanks again, guys, and everybody out there. We'll be back same time next week. And Ronnie, we're going to really make this a sports. We're going to start talking about the Twins.
The Twins.
We talk so much about history. Next week, we have somebody joining us. Ronnie, tell us about that.
His name is Chad Rubin, and he's like a walking encyclopedia. Yeah, he's going to come into the booth with us, and I've invited him, and he'll be perfect for this. He's very excited about it, and he knows so much about sports, about the Twins minor league system. He's a walking encyclopedia. It's just amazing. So I think it'll be a good addition to our show. Okay.
And we'll be able to keep folks in tune with what's going on in a tremendous Minnesota Twins season that finds them in contention, inexplicitly in contention, going up against all odds. How about that for motivational speaking? Huh?
That's true. That's right. That's right. That's so true.
Okay.
All right.
So
take care.
Come back next week, everybody, and we'll have that. And I'm so pleased to meet you. Please befriend me on Facebook, Cindee.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right.
Okay.
Great. And
thanks again, Cindee. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Both of you stay healthy and Zygozunt, everybody. Adios.
Goodbye. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.